Hi, I'm Dennis Isbister of Wild Fish, Wild Places Television, and I'm out here on my home waters of Pyramid Lake, Nevada. Do a couple how-to videos that try to help you guys be more successful when you're out trolling here at Pyramid Lake or other waters. Today, our setup is the cold water, low profile line counter reel and the SST rod for the downrigger side. And one of the things that I've utilized in the last few years a lot is the line counter setup. Every time that you're trolling for whatever you're trolling for, walleye, trout, it comes down to being very specific. Size of line, the size of your leader, the weight, the presentation, and once you start catching fish, you want to be able to go right back to exactly what was working. You don't want to be guessing. One of the things that I do out here at Pyramid Lake, and a lot of times lake trout fishing that other people don't do, is I also put it behind the downrigger ball a certain distance all the time. And one of my techniques out here is I like to chase those fish that are on the bottom, 30, 40 feet. You start printing those marks. If you're running 12 feet, 14 feet, 20 feet, a lot of times those fish won't come up and eat that bait. So how do you know you're right above their head? You run 20 feet behind the downrigger ball, you drop it until your ball hits the bottom. We're fishing a big sandy clay bottom so it doesn't get stuck. And you lift it up 5 feet, 6 feet, depending on how your lure is gonna dive. We're using a lure that just dives a couple feet, so we know that that lure is right over top of that fish's head, and it generates a strike 9 out of 10 times, when a lot of times if you're running up above their head a long ways, they won't come up and eat it. I'll show you what we're doing here. So we got the line counter, we got it on 0. We're gonna run it down here. So that's perfect right there. We're at 10 feet on the line counter, and we're gonna be right behind that downrigger ball because we know we have control. If you're back there 50, 60 feet, you really can't guess how deep that thing's gonna be. You're gonna end up on the bottom, dragging whatever, not catching fish. So we're 10 feet behind the downrigger ball. We're gonna clip it on. And then what I do is I send it down, boom, boom, boom. So we're down about 30 feet. You don't want to trust the line counter ever. You want to go until it hits bottom, bam, right there. You feel it hit bottom, lift it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know you're there, get your setup, and you're fishing. But now you know you're gonna be right there, right in front of those fish's face, and it's gonna generate a lot more fish for you. This works lake trout fishing, here at Pyramid Lake, all over the place where those fish are relating to the bottom for structure. Color selection for trout. One of the most important parts of your day. I feel like people don't pay enough attention to this as they are going through their day, kind of figuring out what they're gonna use. So I'm gonna walk you through how I structure my day. Low light conditions, we're starting out the morning, I want something dull. Frog colors, anything with a dark back, dark spots, that kind of thing. And what'll happen is you'll get your rods in the water and you'll start catching fish. The sun will get up and start penetrating that water pretty good and your bite will slow down. And I've been with a lot of people where they just say, oh, the bite's off. Not true. Change colors. If they start biting it hot and start to taper off as the light conditions change lures, something bright. So as soon as that sun gets up high, change to your bright colors. Flash like hologram, chartreuse, pinks. Those are the ones, the key baits for the day. It also depends on depth. So experiment with those colors throughout the day. If you're fishing, nice bright sunny conditions, cloud cover rolls in, the bite shuts down, change colors. So when you get out there, really pay attention to your color selection, and this will help you be a better angler.
You know I'm trying, so have mercy on me.
We're gonna go through a couple of trolling techniques that work Out here at Pyramid Lake, especially lake trout fishing, all the trout, they're predator fish. So they hunt your bait essentially, and they also relate to structure. One of the biggest mistakes I see people making is they get out here and they find fish in 30 feet. Well, they just parallel the 30-foot mark and go in a straight line. And it works, you catch some fish. But the most important thing you can do to catch more and bigger fish is go in and out off of the ledges. So these fish are used to hunting, and they wait and they kind of run these ledges, and when they come off a ledge or onto a ledge, they strike. So what I like to do is I like to make big S-turns in and out of these ledges. We'll take the boat all the way to 25 feet, 20 feet if we're chasing that 30-foot mark, and out to 35. Now what this does, every time you turn, these fish will get behind these lures and track them. So you'll make a big sweeping S-turn, and the inside rod starts to slow down. That bait that's doing this will start to slow up, and it'll a lot of times cause a strike. And the rod on the outside of the turn is gonna speed up, and it's actually gonna come up in the water column and start to wiggle more, move faster, and that'll cause a strike. So if you're going straight, you're doing it wrong. Always be turning the boat, getting going, speeding those baits up, slowing them down. You will catch a lot more fish. One of the techniques out here at Pyramid Lake that we like to do, other than the downrigger fishing, is flatline fishing. But with flatline fishing, you need to know exactly where you're at all the time. And for that, we're using an Okuma cold water line counter reel and an SST rod. So our setup today, we've got braid, we've got like a 30-pound braid, a 4-ounce weight, and our plug running back there. We know we're gonna be fishing in about 30 feet of water, and we're gonna need to be about 20 feet down. So with that, got your line counter on 0, and you slowly let it back. With this much weight, it's key to not let it all out really fast. You wanna just control your descent back. If you just drop it, right now there's a lot of moss on the bottom. So as soon as it hits bottom, it's got moss. So you've gotta keep it near the bottom, but not touching bottom. A lot of times out here, you like that bait digging in the dirt. It's one of the things we do in the winter a lot. But right now, just asking for a no fish day if you do that. So with the line counter reels, we're able to figure out exactly the sweet spot where the fish want to eat it, how deep we're gonna be running with these plugs, and the action we're gonna get with the angle of the line as well. We're gonna slowly let it back. And 65 feet has been the money depth with this setup. There you go. And like any good fisherman knows that repetitiveness, once you find out that sweet spot, is the key. So the line counter reel allows us to get back to that spot every time, and you know you're there. The fish might move throughout the day and you might have to change it, but when you start experimenting around with different lengths behind there, at least you know exactly when and where those fish are gonna eat it. So we're at 65 feet. We're gonna let it ride. We're in 30 feet of water, which is where we've been finding most of the fish. And we're gonna let it ride right there. A lot of times you can sit here and pump the rod, and that'll create a strike. But what I like to do is I like to set it in the rod holder and just leave it there. A lot of times these fish, we know from watching a lot of underwater footage, water wolf footage, that these fish get up behind it and they track it, sometimes 2 or 3 at a time, and they come at it from behind like this. So a lot of times you'll see them, they'll be nipping at it, and you'll just see something in your rod as long as you're paying attention. And you can actually get to this rod quick, drop it back, they'll think that they stunned it, fish on. Just like that. That might be a good fish right there. All right, buddy, you ready? Ready, not ready? Yeah! There you go! Look at that fish, that is dandy. And that's the difference. Look how fat that thing is. That's the difference right there. And having the details down to a science, or just putting stuff out there not knowing where you're at. Look at the size of that trout.